The digital economy is this year's conference theme, and many of the world's financial organisations are transforming their services and business models as they move towards this new economy.
Well, joining us now in the studio is Thomas Zeeb. Now, Thomas is head of Securities and Exchanges at SIX, and he's here to tell us about the digital transformation that's taking place there. So, Tom, welcome to the studio. And we know that a number of companies have actually got digital innovation labs, and some are even running real-world experiments. But SIX Group is a little bit different. What are you doing that stands out from the crowd?
Well, we're not doing anything substantially different from the others in terms of the work we're already doing. We also have labs that are looking at various new technologies, looking at how do we implement those, how do we get more efficiencies out of our platforms. But what we've done with announcing SDX is really looking at defining what that future vision should look like, in our view, and how we can really get some additional efficiencies into the capital market system as a whole. The idea that you take old technology or old processes and automate them with new technology is no business case. You know, you can take little bits and pieces. We've looked at that. We've done various things with golden copy data stuff with blockchain. We've done structured products trading on the blockchain, but nothing gives you a real business case unless you start looking at the entire system and saying, how can we change that? And so that's what we've done with SDX.
Tom, that sounds like a big step. Why has SIX decided to take such a big step?
There's a couple reasons. One is, if in my world, I've got already the stock exchange, the central counterparty, and the central depository. So we're one of the very few providers that can take that entire chain and cover it off. But those are three legal entities with three regulatory roles that are systemically relevant. If I start playing with those, it becomes very difficult to implement a new technology quickly and really look at how do you change that environment. So part of it was to get a speed of implementation. By doing SDX separately, we can work with new technology. It doesn't touch the old world at all. Secondly, by looking at it in a new company, I don't need to worry about what are the interfaces between stock exchange, central counterparty, CSD, but rather on a greenfield basis, how can we make it look in the future?
And how is the market going to work whilst you're transitioning to a digital exchange?
Well, you will have the choice of working with both. So we're not replacing the existing at all at this stage. We're developing the new. It's going to take time. One of the biggest elements that will take some time is creating the regulatory environment to allow tokens to be treated as a proper security rather than just a receipt for an existing underlying security. So that will take some time, and I think there's going to be a gradual transition from old to new world, and the reality is we're going to learn. We're going to learn stuff. It's going to change, and we will react to what our clients are looking for, and build that into the model.
That is very interesting. How will transactions be carried out on the new digital exchange?
Well, it's interesting. At the moment, you have a 2-day timeline normally. So you do the trade on day 1, and on day 3, ultimately, it'll be settled. In the new world, you will be doing the trade. In the same instant that you do the trade, you will have the settlement and the booking onto a digital wallet. So you have the same interface you have the same activity from a trading point of view, but the second you've done that trade at tens or even hundreds of thousands of transactions per second, you'll do the settlement and the booking at the same time.
But what about the ownership records? How are they going to be managed?
Well, this is the issue of what is a token? Who can issue a token? What rights do you have with it? Is it like today, a depository receipt, a receipt on something? That's not an ideal scenario because you can't control and ensure that you're not creating new securities beyond what the original issue was. So part of the idea of SDX is to say it's predicated on having a real value attached to the token that effectively replaces the security that's being tokenized. And secondly, by booking it in the digital wallet, we will maintain those records on behalf of the of the owners. We do that today. We do that today in the traditional world. It's not a big stretch to do it in the new world. Technologically, there are some challenges, no question about it. But conceptually, it's all about the same principles that we have today. And this is why an infrastructure provider is well placed to do it. We already have the principles in place that cover asset safety and investor protection. And that's what I think is necessary for banks and other market participants, whether they be fintechs, whether they're asset managers, whatever it happens to be, to use that infrastructure and start working in the new world.
Tom, talk to us about who you're working with in order to create your new digital ecosystem.
Well, first and foremost, it's with our clients and with the regulator. The key part of making this work is to get an agreement amongst regulators on how it's going to work and how this new ecosystem is going to function together with the existing old ecosystem, but also how do we bring new players in? You know, when someone asks for a regulatory approval, what role is he taking? How do those roles interact? These are the things that exist almost intuitively in our existing model. They don't exist yet in the new one. And there are plenty of disruptors out there who are looking at different ways of doing that. So the key dialogue we're having at the moment is with the regulators to define the ground rules, and then obviously with our clients and with various fintechs and looking at what other business models will come out of this ecosystem.
Tom, I'm interested, what personally excites you the most about the new digital stock exchange?
I think the idea of looking at how our existing infrastructure works and reimagining it completely, given what's possible with the new technology, and in particular working with some of the ideas that are coming out of the fintech space, that's fascinating. Because we've seen so many initiatives on the fintech side that are great ideas, but they never get the bridge over to the real world because they don't quite understand how the real world works. And I think one of the things that we bring to the table and we find very interesting and fascinating is how do you bring some of these great ideas into the world that we already have and build that bridge from the traditional model, which is reasonably efficient, but if you want to make that even more efficient, you have to fundamentally change it. So you build the bridge between old and new.
A fascinating journey and one that's also very exciting. But Thomas, thank you so much for giving us your time here on Sibos TV. Thank you.
Pleasure.